3, 2, 1.
Light them up.
I'm Paul.
This is Buck.
This is the Paul and Buck Show.
Hey, the Big Buckin Deal. Hear us. Download the latest app at paulandbuckshow.podbean.com. Okay, we're back.
Back again.
Today's episode, we're gonna do a quick, just me and Paul today. We're just gonna do some catching up, if you will. And,
Definitely do some catching up. We've been doing so much recording, and you do a lot of the editing over now on the
it's been
with our software.
It's been time consuming. We're getting to a point where we're just getting some more people lined up, but I'm working
it, trying to bring in the newer,
of course,
the OGs and the new Gs,
the OGs and OGs, if you will, from the day. Yeah. But a lot of folks going to be coming on. So
I've had some interesting conversations with some of these guys before they haven't even come on yet. But when I pick their brain and I tell them, hey, this is probably what we're going to talk about. So much cool stuff comes out that I'm like, okay, well, hold on. Don't bring it out. Wait till we come out. Wait till you come out.
Yeah, it's remind us when we're on the air, right?
Yeah.
But so there's a ton of things going on this weekend too, right? You got PRI and Indy. There's some few folks that we know that are attending. I see that the Justin from Texas Speed got his car there.
He took his car there. Yeah,
he got his car there. Texas Speed. Of course, I got a booth there. There's a lot of people local from Texas.
One of the most recent artworks that I just did out of California. They're out there for Reed Rockers right now.
There you go. What car was that?
That was the 40 Willis.
Willis.
He got that car here out of Texas and took it to California, and it was a pro mod type deal with the steel body, and it'd been in some magazines before, and so
nice.
He just wanted to bring it back to that 60s theme. So he wanted to raise it back up, and
so it's a gasser. I mean,
it was a real gasser. It's always been a real gasser, but over the years they had kept up with the time. So the front end goes down, the Pro Street tire slicks, 16s. I think they look like 16s. I mean, mechanical injection. Look like a newer style Hemi. But all that looks like it's being
nice. What booth was that again?
Retro upgraded. Reed Rockers. Reed Rocker Arms. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, awesome. Yeah. So you did that artwork. Fantastic.
Yes, I did his artwork just because he wanted to have a design of his new car and wanted to know what it would look like with lettering, and wanted me to put a spin on that traditional look because that's what I've been mainly doing artwork with is gassers for several years now.
Yeah.
And I don't do very many, but when I do, I like to keep with the traditional theme.
Of course.
Full hands-on, computer airbrushing. Trying to stay away from Photoshop quite a bit, man, because there's so many people do Photoshop today. It's so easy if you learn it, you can do a lot of things with it, and it's cool.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I like to stay traditional. So these guys, that is probably one of the rules that they have in those gassers. So even their lettering on their cars, it can't be vinyl. It has to be hand lettered on there. So if they wreck their cars,
that makes sense.
you done messed up the whole.
You gotta go back and do the whole thing over again.
Yeah. So sometimes when you see these cars and you're like, man, I think it's that old that gasser that was running about 3 years ago. Well, it's probably because he touched the freaking wall and had to go with a different theme. So. There's a bunch of cool stuff like that. But anyway, that's my little world of gassers, and cool. I really enjoy it. The new cars today are also pretty cool. And, anyway, so that's what he did,
Yeah, well, that's even better, right? So get a little shout out to them at PRI. But like I said, that's going on. You got the world of, you see it seems like everywhere you look at PRI and or some of the feeds, it's like, street outlaw guys, right? So I mean, they're big. I guess they're a big crowd pleaser because
Not only that, they have the latest technology.
Well, that's the thing. They get all the new stuff from all the new from all their companies that are supporting them.
Yeah,
right?
I was when I last left here on our last podcast, and and you have you're still with your traditional big block.
Right.
Definitely doesn't have cast iron heads, but you definitely have a lot of cool
But
stuff on it.
yeah.
Stuff that I don't really know how it works because the technology changes so much year to year that even you
Oh
have
yeah.
adapted. And since you work for Holly, let's do a little technical here on what it takes to update
Yeah.
a distributor running Big Black. What's wrong with the distributor? That was one of the things. Well,
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with it, but explain why the difference between MSD Digital and then you've got the latest one today called
The grid.
the Grid.
Yeah.
What are the
Well,
advantages and disadvantages? Because there's still a lot of cars that run the digital.
right.
So
Well,
tell me a little
yeah. Yeah, you're right. There's a lot of stuff that came about.
Right.
Really, is that when you start looking at the earlier the CD boxes, right?
Right.
The 6As and 6As. I mean, those back when you go back, however long they've been around forever, right? But you say you go back,
I think the 70s,
10, 20
but
years,
they
yeah,
updated it,
longer than that. I mean, right at that time. So, those were analog boxes. But
Yeah.
when you got into the digital side, okay, when you got into the digital side, it changed. It changed a lot of things because
Right.
when you go back and look at if you wanted to add like retard, right?
Right.
And, I'll just use nitrous, right? The nitrous, right? I mean, you added on a box to it, right? You
Yeah.
added a separate retard box. Then you had your shift activation
Two-step,
switches,
and there was
then you
three-step.
had your two-step. Some things when you had the 6AL, right? It had
Right.
then you can add a two-step on there, right? And
Boost controller on top of that.
right, so it was add-on, but those were all analog boxes.
Right.
So when you got into the digital world, right, the new boxes that I say the new generation because that's what
Yeah.
they are. But
Right.
then you had the ability to control it by either a dial,
Right.
or something, right?
So there was
Because
a red digital box and then the gold one.
right. So with the red it was the digital 6. Right? They
Right.
came out with the digital 6.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know what it was, but
Right.
when it was, but that's probably been every bit of 15 so years ago when
Yeah.
it started going. But that was that digital 6 was it had a step retard, or a single channel or single retard,
Right.
and it had the two-step built in, right? That was all built in there, right? So then when you get into the racing world, they had the digital 7, right? That was
Right.
7530, 7531, 7530Ts and all that stuff. So those were like the deal breakers back
Yeah.
in that when it came out, because those are for pro teams, man. That was
Yeah.
you can do so much with that.
Yeah, you look up the price of one of those and you were like,
Yeah,
whoa.
launch retard. I mean,
Yeah.
you still had the ability to do your rev limiter high, burnout or max or two-step, and then you had there was so much you can do with that box, right? It was
Yeah.
it was just not only you could do individual cylinder timing, right? ICT, right? Anyway, that was the generation of those new boxes.
No, let me ask you this.
Pro boxes, man.
The old 7AL, the one that kind of eliminated all those little boxes,
Okay,
that
well,
did not
that-
have the option
yeah,
to do that. You
that-
just had some time and retard stages.
So they had the it wasn't it was actually the 7AL.
Right,
The 7AL, and then it had 7AL2 and 7AL3. So those earlier boxes, those were all analog.
Right, but you had everybody, hooked up
Yeah.
with trans brake, nitrous.
Right.
It
Right.
worked good.
You can do that, and those were still literally analog
Yeah.
because they had little chips where
Yeah.
it sent a ground signal
A little
through
pill, yeah.
the little pill, and then of course you can change your rev limiters, you can change your all that stuff, and then when they got to the 7AL3 before the digital 7AL3, that was like the box to get because that was it had so much spark and it was
Yeah.
you could do all these functions on the
Don't
racing
touch
side.
it, you'll die.
Yeah, it'll pop you. It's gonna pop you good with a coal, but.
Yeah.
So that was those are bad boxes. I have had several, and I liked them. And then, in order to adapt,
Right.
and in order for you to stop messing with pills, and you had to jump in and get into the world of you have to connect to the computer, get the software,
Yeah.
start reading data.
Yeah.
That's what it basically came down to.
And that was
It's
plugging
data,
in with your
that-
little serial cord.
Yeah, that was the other thing about when that digital age came around. It was the ability to have data, right? And you could do with the digital 7, it had the ability to read a dry shaft speed sensor.
Oh,
and
nice.
then you can adapt what they called your retard,
Right.
and you can literally look at your engine RPM versus your dry shaft speed RPM,
Yeah.
and what they call it connected dots, right? And you would write the dots, and your timing, plot, and all that good stuff. So that was every bit of 15 years ago.
That ran great for a distributor
Oh yeah,
type
yeah,
setup.
yeah. That was a distributor setup. Now that was the other thing that came to the table is that crank trigger's been around for a long time. Crank trigger's been around. But
And explain to me, why would somebody want to run a crank trigger versus...
You can run a distributor. I mean, but you got that has the ability to, you got cam wear, right? When you get into like high performance racing, you got to run like a bronze timing gear, right? Because the steel of the camshaft.
Those do wear out. Yeah.
And they'll wear out. So when you get wear, it's gonna get cam play, right?
What do you think the the time for a bronze gear to start getting some play? But how long were you seeing that?
Well, I mean,
versus the steel?
if you have your cam depth, or I'm sorry, your distributor depth and your cam gear meshed properly, it'll last forever. I mean, I say forever. I mean, you can get some lifetime
Drag strip race style.
Yeah, but if you get the cam gear meshed, like it's just like setting up gears.
Yeah.
You got the heel, you got the top. If you get it to where it's wearing out wrong, it'll eat that cam up, gear up, and then you'll start having.
So they do
timing
make shims and
fluctuations.
everything for.
Yeah, they do that. You could buy the I forgot what they call it. The bushing on the distributor gear. You can get that stuff. But well, not necessarily on the distributor gear, but the distributor base. But that's the thing. When you get into that wear, then you're going to get your timing that's going to be affected. So when you get a crank trigger, you're never going to have that problem, right? Crank trigger is always going to give you accurate timing, and your timing is going to be set. Or if you set at 38, it's going to be set at 38, right? Because unless you're real high horsepower and you're supercharged and you're flexing the crankshaft or something, you don't have a they have those ones that have the bracing in the front and all that stuff. But anyway, so that's just a scenario that if you're that high horsepower, then that's probably something that you're going to be replacing more often just because of general maintenance. But anyway, so yeah, that all that ignition came around for high performance reasons. Do you have to run a crank trigger? No. You can run a good distributor, and again, if everything's set right, and I'm not gonna say there's a horsepower range that you can set and say, hey, I'm at this horsepower, I need the crank trigger. I mean, again, it's just a preference, and if you're having an issue with timing issues and you run a distributor, and you always, I don't know, having issues, your timing and you're hurting engines, or if you're running nice, you're hurting, then go with the crank trigger, right? I mean, that's there's no right or wrong decision. It's the preference, right? So and how it gets set up. So
because there was some guys, I mean, even back then, I mean, they would just lock out an HEI and run an MSD box directly to it just to run the what do you call it, the pickup inside.
On a HEI.
Yeah, and so as long as the distributor was good, I mean, these guys would run that. And that kind of lasted for a good while until, everybody's like, you know what, just the MSD box gonna take a shit, so might as well just get the whole.
Well, there was a time where I don't remember when, but people were having problems with boxes, and you would always want to have a spare box because I mean, a box goes out, you're dead, right? Yeah, you're dead. But it depends on what it is, because a rotor can get knocked out or something stupid. I've seen people try to lock out distributors, do the welding tabs, and then something break loose, and then that thing will spin around and it'll catch and it'll rip, your wires get I've seen that shit.
Really? Wow.
Oh yeah, I've seen that where but when that happens, then you're really dead in the water, right? The distributor will catch, housing will catch, and it'll spin the whole thing around. You got wires twisted up everywhere. And I've seen that before.
Those performance distributors, man, they had the little adjustable where you could take the diaphragm back in advance and put in one of their little adjustables, and it was kind of like a little cheat, on there. But still, it was you would still weld that damn top piece and
that's the thing, you better weld it pretty good.
So there was a mix. It's been a mix of MSD distributors and a mix of that going on, all that. When the world of the digital stuff came in, you also had the end of the traditional small block, and the last one that was out there was like the LT1, right? And so And so you could still use some of this stuff, but those engines didn't have a damn distributor.
Yeah,
So
they're OptiSpark.
yeah, they were OptiSpark, so you were kind of limited. So I saw some guys doing some weird stuff where they were putting crank triggers, running, and yeah, I don't know if it was an aftermarket computer
Right.
because it's a different type of sensor, so it's not going to match. You know?
So what people are doing now
Yeah.
is that I don't know what they're doing then because I'll be honest with you, I didn't keep up with that
Oh, it was
second
just
gen. I didn't keep up with that
hybrid
second
shit.
gen. I didn't keep
Yeah.
up with that second gen LT, and
Yeah.
I really didn't care for it.
No, because everybody was
But
still traditional.
so
yeah.
right now, what everybody's doing is that they take that OptiSpark off and they actually put an LS 24X
Yeah,
reluctor.
it's I bought one of those.
Yeah, it's a EFI connection makes one that they do that
Yeah, EFI
conversion
connection,
where you can convert that front half to a 24X times one
Yeah,
cam.
they had one where
And that's basically an LS1 basically.
so they had one where it was a 10X. Then they had the LS1, and then they had the one for the the later LS, what's a 58X or
Yeah, that's the 4th-gen. Yeah.
right. So I went and got the first one, right? Because it was adaptable to the traditional with the distributor and all that.
yeah.
All you had to do was just go buy
Right.
like a late '97 van.
Oh.
So you'd get the 411 PCM and throw in their tune.
see,
So I called the guy directly and I said, hey, I want to be able to run that and run the coil packs. And he goes, well, I'm actually working on something like that. He goes, but we're gonna change out to the just to the LS1
Yeah.
triggers. And then it went to the big 58.
Well-
So it was nice. I built the wire harness and the whole
Yeah.
thing, and I was actually could run a carburetor. He goes, I'll just take out the programming features for the EFI, just keep the ignition.
You got to keep a TPS, I think
Right.
that's it, right?
Yeah, you just got to run all that stuff and throw a carb on it. So
Yeah,
so I did
and
that.
the reason why, which back then that was probably fun, but right now
Mm-hmm.
where everybody's going to either 24 or 58 because
Yeah.
there's aftermarket ECUs now that
Right.
you can run like a Holley Terminator,
Yeah,
and you can buy it as compared to you going to getting a factory ECM and flashing it for that 10. So now everything's kind of converted over to that
right.
to that
Even
Gen
them
3, Gen 4 LS.
Yeah, even the
stuff.
MSD boxes that run the
Yeah.
LS stuff. So let me backtrack a little bit. So if you want to keep your traditional big block, because big blocks still command a lot of power today, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Even some big small blocks. So you want to modernize it because you already have you still have your car put together, but you want to run EFI and all that stuff. And I've seen you update just about every damn thing on what's needed, right?
Right.
So you got EFI, you've got the the option to run the grid or coil packs.
Right.
You've got the which Holley computer are you running?
So I got the Holley Dominator.
The Dominator one. So that's the top of the line one. That's the one that carries every feature.
Yeah, that's for Holley. That's
Yeah.
what Holley. That's what the top of line Holley. But,
Right.
So yeah, you can do. Right now, I run a single pulsar fire, which is a distributor crank trigger,
Right.
and that's what I got firing my. So I do piggyback my grid off my Holley. Now, if I wanted to, then I can convert it to a coil and plug. I can do a couple things.
But it eliminates all that wiring. You just have it
Yeah,
down for your
yeah.
grid.
In which it's not a big deal. If I can do a couple different things, I can eliminate that distributor,
Right.
and do what we call either do a terminated harness and do a coil on plug, right?
Right.
Right, and then just do a cam sync plug where I just have a cam sync only, and then do away with my distributor cap and all that stuff, or I can do what I have is that the MSD Pro 600, right, and then that's actually that's actually a let's just say that's a bigger amplifier
Yeah.
than any MSD box offers,
Okay.
right? That's like you can go to two different settings.
Yeah.
You can, but it's a coil and plug setup.
Okay.
But yes, you can do that with either the Dominator HP ECU from Holley. So yeah, you got options like for example like the guy that's got the conventional first gen small block big block, they can do the Dominator, they can do multi-port.
Yeah.
But they can do what has just become available in the past maybe 5 years is what they call a dual sync distributor.
Okay.
Right, you can run a dual sync distributor where that puts the crank and cam sync all in one unit. Right, in
I've
that
seen
distributor.
those. Okay. Yeah.
So when you run that cam sync, now you can run it without the cam sync, but it's going to run what they call batch fire or bank to bank
Yeah.
injection strategy. Now, when you get the cam sync, that gives you the ability to do the sequential, right? The sequential injection strategy. So, in which that's what I would advise doing,
Right.
because there's no reason if you got an EFI system, why go back
Yeah.
to that,
All
that
fuel
air,
all at once.
that air when I say the Mustang 8793s that
Yeah.
they had the TFI ignition with EFI, and they're
You know,
running. I believe they're running bank to bank. So anyway,
Yeah, I had a little one, but I had like the biggest cam you could probably get away with, where the computer wasn't too stupid.
right.
But you know what, man? Every morning that I would turn that damn car on until it warmed up, oh man, it would spit fire and backfire, and it was not cooperating. So it wasn't easy to run around. But I mean, a lot of guys actually did tune batch fire. It was crazy. You
Yeah,
know,
I mean,
they burn a chip and
Yeah.
and just
Yeah, like I said, it'll work. I mean,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong. I mean, it'll work and it'll run. It's just when you run that sequential, that car just sounds a little different.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, like I said, you can get a batch fire to run. I mean, and it'll operate. But it just makes it a little bit more happier the engine,
Right.
in my opinion. Right, instead of you running, 4 cylinders that aren't is getting fuel and it's
Right.
not sparking. But anyway, so on top of that, everything's come a long way. Everybody
Right.
who's out there, they're running EFI some way, shape, or form. Right?
Right.
It's a little more tunable. You can do, you can make your engine efficient as possible and make horsepower. The thing that I mentioned earlier about data logging, right? That anything that you're getting data on, that just makes you, that gives you an advantage in a whole different light as compared to going back when you ran carburetor and
running with your foot.
Yeah, you're running.
Your foot is your data.
Yeah, you're running. You're physically going out and
Think I
taking
slipped.
time and out
Yeah.
for your nitrous hits.
Right.
And then we came to the chips, right? But so that you weren't getting data.
No.
So but, now you're getting data.
And it's funny because most guys would just stay locked. Just they wouldn't change the setting. It's just like boom, that's what it is. Because I run a bottle and and then some people were like, man, I kind of need to go back to a different setting.
If you're what a lot of people did back in the day, they would run a 100 shot. I mean, you could probably get away with taking out just a few degrees, but they would already have their car kind of on the rich side anyway.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say it's helping them a
Right.
bit, but might have been hurting them anyway. But yeah, they didn't touch timing. They just went out there and made a motorhead, and then just turned the bottle on. I'm like, man, how are you getting away with that?
Wow.
Because,
Talk about checking your plugs and ooh, these are bad.
Yeah, back when I started running, I hardly ever checked plugs. I was getting lucky, and then you start getting that bump, and then you're like, wow, I was taking out 5 degrees. I'm gonna try 4 degrees.
Yeah.
Like, ooh, that wasn't good.
But that was too late.
And that's when you
That
didn't know
late.
about hey, the air is a lot better now.
Yeah.
It's burning. Anyway, so
It's so easy for guys
they're-
today see stuff on the computer.
Yeah.
And just make an adjustment.
Well, that
save your motor.
even when you run an EFI, right?
Right.
You make a hit on action, you still better check your plugs.
Oh, yeah.
Just to check,
Yeah.
and then once you get a baseline, when you know a baseline as far as like where your timing and your fuel's at,
Mm-hmm.
you still need to pay attention to like the temperature, right, and then the climate, because just like I can't remember who told me that, but somebody told me this one time. They said you can't burn fuel in water. Basically saying
Right.
that when there's a lot of grains in the air, a lot of humidity, you're not making all the power, so you can afford to do some things. But when the air gets drier, then you're making power, and that engine's it's going to let
excited.
you know. Yeah, so you just anyway. So that EFI stuff, it takes a whole guess out of a lot of things, but
Right.
you still got to do some basic tuning, right? You still got to do your basic stuff. But.
So where do you think the guys who haven't done a complete changeover, just because most guys that are running the LS engines today, they start off with the PCM, the 411 PCM,
Right.
and then they're like, you know what, let's just do the Ollie, and then they get rid of all that. There's still guys tuning, but most guys that are running real fast are now just switching over to the Holly. So for these guys with the traditional motors, about how hard do you think it is for some of these guys who've been, drag racing? They've got their car parked, or they want to bring it back out, or maybe they want to try a turbo on it. How hard is it for them to convert to today's technology on your traditional? And I'm talking about a big block that's making at least 800, 900 horsepower. They just to convert. what are the stepping? So is it going to be difficult for them? Do they need a lot of tech support?
No, I wouldn't say so. I mean, it just depends on how how experienced you are. I mean, how familiar are you with doing basic stuff? Because I mean, it's easy. Because I mean,
Yeah.
all you got to do is figure out where to mount it. When you buy stuff from whether it be Holley, Field Tech,
Yeah.
whoever,
Right.
it's going to come with a harness. It's going to come
Yeah.
with a pick. It's going to come with an injector. As long as you do your research as far as the proper injector selections, and you got to know what injector harness to get. And O2 sensor, because Holley, they offer two different O2 sensors. Right, there's a Bosch, which is fine for like regular fuels, but when you're doing alternative fuels like E85 or high octane,
it's different.
you want to get an NTK. So, and now as long as they do the research and they do their stuff and get all the parts, I mean, you can do it easy. And then this is prior to having everything else as far as, because when you go converting a carburetor, you need to make sure you're going to get your intake. Your intake's got to get what they call EFI converted or buy it. Make sure you got the fuel rails proper injectors as far as type. Once if all that is done in your fuel system, I mean you can install one in a half a day.
So here's a question. So let's say you still run your digital box, and then you've got the other guy that runs the what do you call it here? The power grid, the grid.
Yeah, the grid.
So let's say you've got two guys, right? They're still carbureted, right? What do you think their next step should be? Just go straight into the Holley system and put it on before making ignition a complete changeover all at once, or first get used to the EFI programming, or it kind of programs. It does safety, but what do you recommend that they do? Do you recommend that they go into the power grid and do all these other changes?
I mean, really, honestly,
because you can run coil packs with the carburetor still. I've seen it.
Yeah, you can run coil packs as long as you got that cam sensor. That's really it.
Okay.
As long as you got that cam sensor. And so here's the thing: is that in EFI, I mean, that's a good question because a lot of people do say, hey, I want to. Because a Dominator, you can have a Dominator just control your ignition and all these other things like boosted, nitrous. It's got its own nitrous controller. You can run a carburetor on there as long as that carburetor has a TPS. That's it. You can run everything else controlled ignition wise through the Dominator. Now,
and does Holley offer a kit to just bolt a TPS on it? Cause I've seen I've seen a lot of guys modify their carburetor just to add it on there.
Yeah.
But do they make a kit? Does somebody kill a?
There's a kit out there. There's a couple kits actually. B&M makes one. It's a.
That's right.
B&M makes a. It is actually designed for a standalone transmission controller. Because the transmission controller needs a TPS and RPM. Yeah. So there's a bracket out there it's actually it's a remote style TPS and it's made for a transmission controller, but you can utilize it for DC, right? So that's one, but all the Holley Ultra XPs, they do have a provision for the TPS already on there. So that's the only carburetor that I know of that has that. Everybody else you have to modify something. But like I said, there's a bracket out there that's made by B&M. Yeah. That you can do that. So, but to kind of answer your other question was, I mean, it's just going to come down. It's just going to come down to what you want to do. Because if you say, "Hey, I want to go right straight for the jugular," I would say go right straight for the jugular. Okay. Just go right straight to the EFI. Get it on. Just get it on, and then you're going to learn. Because if you go back and just put a carburetor or whatever with EFI, then with the grid. And again, the only reason I got the grid is because I'm still single pulse for fire, right? So it needs that spark to the coil, and what anyway. So it's a preference, man. Right. There's no right or wrong.
And these questions that I'm asking here, they are to the guys, not the LS World. The LS World is a whole different monkey. Yeah, that's a different but this is for the guys who when you go to the track and you see them running good, they're on carburetor, you see they're still MSD box with the distributor and all. But I'm sure that some of these guys, when they pass by one of these newer guys running around tuning with the laptop, at what point do these guys say, you know what, maybe it's not so bad to update to the new stuff? And then you got the question here now, do I have to have a friend now who's my tuner and become buddies with him, or can I just, is the struggle going to be easy to transition?
It doesn't hurt. I mean, I'll be honest with you. Yeah. Because if you're coming straight over and transitioning,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's going to be a totally new ball game.
Right.
Now, and I would say this is that the Dominator is the top of the line. Now there is a Terminator system out there through Holly that it can do the exact same thing,
Okay.
but it gives you the ability to do what they call a setup wizard, and you can run that setup wizard where it tells you, hey, these are my parameter of my engines. You know, number of cylinders,
Oh,
cubic inch,
so that's why.
target idle
Okay,
speed,
got it.
cam type, blah, blah, and then it'll make a bass tune for you. Like it'll make a bass tune.
Only
for
the
each-
Dominator or the other one?
No, the Terminator.
The Terminator one.
Yeah,
Okay.
see
Okay.
the Dominant HP.
I understand.
Now
Like,
you
why would
can
do
do that on
got
some
it.
of the ones and some of the
Not to
kits that come
confuse
with a
anybody,
handheld.
yeah.
But a lot of people who have a Dominant HP, they do everything on a computer, right? They go find a base GCF, a global config file, which that's just a tune,
Right.
and then they'll find something near what their tune is or setup.
Yeah.
It makes them maybe change of injector and ignition, and then it'll make a fuel table for you.
Yeah.
But that fuel table may not be exactly.
No, and you're
so you
stuck
still
with
got to
it,
go
right.
and do some tweaks.
Yeah.
But like with the Terminator, that you run a setup wizard, it'll make a base table startup tune for you. But all of the systems are self-tuning, self-learning, right? So they got the ability to do some compensations,
Right.
fuel to compensation. So the more you drive it, the more it'll start trimming, right? Your fuel table. So, but you know,
But if you're not driving it because it's a race car,
well, that's what I'm saying. If
Yeah.
you know a tuner, it doesn't hurt because in order for you to get it dialed in, you have to make hits.
that's true.
And in order to make hits, you got to get it semi-running and kind of good.
Dyno
and those
or
bass
track.
tunes that you put in there, like for my car, I can fire my car up, but it runs and idles. You know, I got it on Alpha N, and you know my cam only makes it only pulls like 5 inches of manifold vacuum, so it's really hard to. Anyway, so it's dialed in, but up there high, it needs some help. I mean, it needs to be tuned, but I can fire it up easy, idle, crank, you know, it run fine. But again, the tuning part is stuff that you still gonna need. But like, and that's what I was saying about the Terminator, because that Terminator is more of an entry level. Because the Terminator, they make a universal kit.
Okay.
The universal kit, you can run a distributor, or you can run a crankshaft, whatever. It's a universal kit for ignition wise. But that's there for that entry level.
Yeah.
The Terminator, is the Terminator a great system? Yeah. It has the same interface as the Dominator HP. It just doesn't have quite as the power and resolution as like the Dominator HP. And the Terminator it's only offered in a Bosch O2 sensor. So if you're running pump gas, that's fine. But if you're running high octane, E85,
Really?
as long as
I
you got
didn't
the
know
tune,
that.
as
Yeah.
long as you get the tune set up right, it'll run. But if you don't have the tune right, it'll go through the O2 sensor.
What O2 sensors do all the 85 cars run today? Bosch?
NTK.
NTK? Okay, so that's why.
That's
okay.
why, and that's why I say alternative fuels.
Yeah.
That NTK can accept like high octane, because the 85's got high octane. I mean, it's a higher octane than pump gas, so it's just more acceptable. But if I were to if somebody asked me, hey, you know what I need to do, well then I'm at, you know, anybody, not just me, but anybody say, okay, what are you gonna do? Is this gonna be a racing all out race? How much horsepower? Okay, you're gonna be at 1500 all race, Dominator HP all day long.
Gotcha.
But if they sit here and say, hey, it's gonna be a street, I'm gonna be about 600 horse, I'm gonna run pump gas, and I'm gonna run a distributor, okay. And if your budget's okay,
Yeah.
I would tell them maybe go with an HP. But if they're like, I don't, we'll go with the Terminator X. Terminator X, you can get a universal kit for like $1,250.
Yeah, that's acceptable.
Yeah, and like I said, it'll come with O2 sensor, harnesses, ECU,
Because I don't know
handheld.
anything below that. Because there's other systems out there that they try and.
Oh, yeah.
But you know, there's just.
Yeah.
They're not easy as they seem to make it look, because if, like, let's see, for example, and I don't know what they've all done, but there's like one that you have to literally build yourself. And then they've got the one that is pre-built for you, but you still got to go in there and buy all the and it tells you what GM sensors to get, right?
Right, yep.
I don't think that sounds as easy as what Holly has as far as the entry level one.
Because the Holly, it'll come with the pre-terminated harness. It's already going to come with a harness, already main harness, pigtail for injectors. Only thing you need to just ensure that, you get the sensors. Now, all the Holly Universals, they're GM sensors. So you can go buy a coolant temp sensor from like freaking 91, 90, I don't know, Camaro, right? 98 or something. They're all GM connectors, right? TPS, auto control, they're all GM, the Universal. So, but there's a cross reference out there, and of course Holly sells sensors. They sell coolant, and they sell oil and fuel pressure transducers. So, and again, those sensors, oil pressure and fuel pressure, are not required for an ECU to run. They're just there for you to check your vitals, of course,
Yeah.
right? But the only sensors that are required for an engine run is coolant, TPS, MAP, O2 sensor. Manifold air temp.
If you're running a electronic transmission, well, now you need a
Well, yeah, and
another sensor.
so all of our we have systems that have transmission control,
Yeah.
right, for 480, 460, but that's any it the how can I put it? In order for an engine to run, I mean, if you have transmission control, you need to plug it in, right? But if you don't need transmission control, if you're running a standard or if you're running a turbo 400
Glide or something.
or glide, you can just run a standard Terminator, with no transmission control. So,
So let me ask you this. Now, your street truck that you've had since high school, that thing was actually a really quick truck. That was actually your only hot rod back then.
Yeah.
You recently converted that to EFI. How much of the traditional stuff have
Okay.
you kept on it?
Okay.
But
yeah.
that's a great example.
That's good. Yeah, that's a good question. So that's the difference between a multi-port and then there's a throttle body, right?
Okay.
So I put a sniper stealth throttle body,
Okay.
and it made a world of difference.
Right.
But everything else on that, all the ignition is still MSD.
Nice.
So I kept the MSD locked. It's a locked out distributor. It's always been locked out. It's been locked out at 30 degrees. Boom.
Yeah.
It's always been locked out. But I got a digital 6 on it. Digital 6 with a Pro Billet distributor and MSD coil. Everything else, man, that installation, it's literally like 5 wires. That's all. That's all you got to connect on that throttle. Right? It's power ground, switch 12-volt source, fuel pump, and your ignition. Right? I mean, that's it. I mean, so I run the CD box. So the ignition type, you just set it up for CD box, and I mean that was it.
So if you got spray, you work on the box, not the EFI.
Right. Yeah. So the system does have timing control, right? On top of that, of course, you need to upgrade your fuel system, right? That was just
Yeah.
You
So where did you put the pump? Did you just buy a what do you call it?
So actually, my dad, because our gas tank is still behind the seat.
No, damn.
Yeah. I mean, it's a factory. I mean,
Yeah.
that tank's been behind the seat. When I drove that thing in high school, I used to go to class smell like lawnmower gas.
Fuel dude.
Yeah, fumes. So anyway, so that pump, it's the pump that comes. I got the Holley regulator. I got the Holley inline fuel pump.
Right.
It wasn't even a high performance one. It's a 255 liter per hour one.
Oh wow.
It's a smaller one. But my dad, he actually modified the sending unit on that tank behind the seat. Mm-hmm. He bought a new sending unit because that sending unit was old. The fuel level gauge stopped working. Yeah. But anyway, so he modified with some aluminum fuel line, and at the sending unit he cut a hole. He ran this aluminum tube, 3H tube, going down to the bottom of the tank, about an inch off the bottom, and we flared it on top, and he put a sleeve nut and an AN line. That's the return line.
Okay.
So everything else that's still the standard supply line, it comes off the top of the gas tank, but the fuel pump is right below the framer, right below there. So when that pump turns on, it starts siphoning the fuel, and the pump is quiet. I was worried about it was going to be
noise in it.
Yeah, I was worried, but man, once it siphons the fuel over the supply line or the sending unit, man, that pump, it pulls and it starts sucking because all inline pumps are gravity fed. Yeah. All inline pumps are gravity fed. So
now, what kind of pump did you run before that? The blue one, the Holley Blue. Damn, that thing was a freaking noise monster.
It actually started out when it had a Mallory 110 on it. And I went through 2 of those bastards.
Yeah, because it wasn't,
And then I actually went through 2 Holley Blues.
Well, if you got them hot,
they're
done.
They're grinding and making noise. So yeah, but I had one pump in there for every bit of like 15 years. But yeah, I had a Holley Blue, and all that was right in that same area. But I reran all new fuel lines, Holley EFI, some EFI fuel lines, and regulator. It's a return style fuel system. But that thing made a world difference. I mean, it just like
it took it out of the 90s, right?
Man, it got because
you had a Dominator 750 on it.
It was a Holley 750 Dominator, and I had that carburetor since the 90s, man. Yeah. It actually started out in that car. It used to be in that car a long time ago. But yeah, that carburetor there, it worked good, but sometimes it would be unhappy. It was really sensitive. It would have like a little flat spot in it. It was had, with that 750, and when I had my hard plies, that truck would run 13 O's.
Yeah.
13 O's in the quarter. And then when I would put my cheater slicks on there, the Hoosier Quick Times, they would run 1280s.
Nice.
Yeah, but man, right now that EFI system, it made a big difference. It woke that motor up. You just hit that throttle and it just snaps.
So it just probably made it quicker.
Yeah, so I would imagine, but I haven't ran it. But it runs good on the street, and put that, and I put the well, actually my dad did. I gave him a 7-inch digital dash, put it in there. It's got a digital dash in there, man, and it's got he's got a fuel gauge all working, man, and it's cool. I mean, it's
a fun look.
It almost modernized it, but it's fun. But so hopefully that truck will get driven a lot more.
But anybody who anybody who runs in the 9s with a big block, you can take that setup right there and put it on your 9-second car.
Yep.
So, and notice an improvement because it's got the capability.
So that all those systems, like I said, they all have self-tuning, self-learning. But
right.
if you need to get it dialed in to where you want some more edge in it, you may have to plug in a computer and do some trims on it. But yeah, I mean, it'll make that engine efficient. The thing that I was going to say is that if you are making 900 horse, there is a Dominator sniper system.
Wow.
Yeah, that's it's like, I can't remember the CFM, and they make a Terminator X 4500, which is a throttle body Dominator style. Anyway, so literally anybody who's running a carburetor that wants to go EFI and they don't want to do a multi-port conversion, they can put a throttle body on there. And like I said, everything comes down to this. I'm gonna say this. People may not agree, but you can't just go put an EFI system on a car and expect it to run, because if now, in why I'm saying is that you can't have a I'm gonna say this politely, but you can't have a pile of shit and expect it to run. Right. Meaning that you can't get a motor and say, hey, I'm gonna put EFI on it, but if it's burning oil, going past the rings, and it's not a sound motor, you can't expect the
computer to,
because now what you're doing is, because what a carburetor does, a carburetor band-aids a lot of the stuff. Yeah. Right. You could tune a carburetor. Yeah. But when you put an EFI system on a foundation that's not sound, you're gonna have problems.
There's gonna be vacuum leaks.
Vacuum leaks.
Low
you can
fuel,
have
erratic fuel,
blowing oil out the exhaust, and it's gonna clog up your O2 sensor. So it's just. Yeah. You
clean up your act.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. So I'm not gonna sit here and say that anybody, hey, I got this motor's got.
But you know what? I doubt there's many of them dudes that are even gonna want to buy an EFI setup, knowing that that's what they run.
You'd be surprised.
Wow.
Well, I say that maybe not the person that on the performance side, but guys that's the normal everyday guy that doesn't know, what cubic inch means. Yeah. And then expect to put on and so that's 300
horse on a.
There's unfortunately there's people out there, because I hear
you do well. You run
right. So but the point is, like I said, the guy that we deal with, like the people that we deal, like the people on the performance side that know what they're doing. Of course, if they got a sound foundation, then they put something on it that's efficient. Yeah, you're gonna make some. You're gonna improve. But that's all a good point, because Holley, they make. And again, I'm not I'm gonna say this too, that Holley makes good sound systems, but there's other companies out there that make stuff.
They're just user friendly. What I've noticed,
that's the point.
Their advertisement it's great. It didn't they didn't just come out with the product and still nobody knows about it, because there's a bunch of other products that are really good. You just don't see it all the time because they cater to. That on a higher level, it's a higher priced, and so a lot of the guys that I'm seeing are just all the modern turbo guys today, all the modern EFI guys. You see them, and if they're in the fast range, most of them are like, just Holley. I run Holley. What do you got, Holley? Do you ever hear that top of the line? Very rarely do you hear somebody who put on something.
That's a good point, because that top, the other tier, it's a different category, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're right, because I'll say it, that some of that brand, right? They probably give a lot of these systems to these other high end guys that are well noted and on TV, and they're doing their thing, which is great, but they get that free. I guess you can get that free publicity. from being exposed from the high end side of the TVs and watching that other stuff on that you see that so and so from TV show this and they're running their system.
Well, it's all part of the advertisement game, right? They're going to be put on TV.
I understand it. I mean, it makes sense.
And then they got the shirt. If you notice, a lot of these guys are now wearing all their designs on the front because they realized, oh well, when I talk, you can't see the design on the back of the shirt. Yeah. So
I remember that because me and actually Thomas, we said it on the previous episode that we went up to Catch Days up in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And
it was an opportunity, right?
Well, so this was back in 2015.
Oh wow! Okay.
Now, if you had something on your hat, like Nike, or they made you cover it up. Yeah, that was they told you that because it was an infringement thing. That, but now it's different. It's not like that no more. You see either a lot of these people jumped on board and like, okay, it's okay, you can go ahead and use our. Okay. Right. Yeah, like people were wearing like a waistcoat piston shirt, and they made you cut up. I had what was it me? There was somebody else that had like a Nike, and they made you cover it up.
Wow.
Anyway, so regardless of that, like I said, it's different now, right?
Anyway,
the point being is that now it's different because it's mainstream almost. Like, and I say it over and over because I don't understand why, but it is, but. Anyway, like I said, those guys are at the right place, right time.
So
right
what?
Place, right
what
time,
all?
so.
Excuse me. So what all brands that Holly carries now do you think that are transferable now? To somebody who's got a car. Like let's say you've got your Iski Cam and you're running, some old Brodix or something like that. What is the just from your perception, what do you think is the majority of stuff that people are buying now and then taking it onto the track and running around? Besides the LS, well, I'm not even gonna touch the LS stuff. This is for strictly those guys who are like, hey man, I want to upgrade, I want to buy this, I want to buy that, and then you see them on the track and they're not really deep into the conversion, but what does Holly have? What do they offer that because they bought out a lot of products, so. What do you think is an advantage for somebody to say, you know what, I'm just going to order a lot of the Holly stuff versus independent shit here and there? Amazon.
There's exhaust. The Flowmaster hooker. There's exhaust. Really, the things that you see, it is the swap stuff. That's a lot now. The swap is big because we offer the ECU, right? The standalone ECU. That's the most popular thing.
They've got the turbo swap manifolds, not headers. They're
they got
manifolds.
they got the manifolds. They got the headers. Honestly, I don't see a lot of. Me personally, but you maybe get one every now and then. They got the manifold with the V bands already on them and everything.
The only time
they got the forward facing ones, and stuff. Yeah. So, that's probably there. Probably a lot of those people, they probably order stuff online because they know what they want. Yeah. They already know what they want.
Well, because they have one that's real slim, and it fits into most early Mustang. Right. Where the shock towers have a problem and all that with the turbo.
Yeah, of course, it's so narrow.
So that's probably the only reason why these guys run into that. But.
The people get that MSD 6014, which is that 2458X coil pack that you can run with the carburetor. That's kind of big. I don't know, man. It's just really kind of hard to say because Holly's got a lot of brands. And they're buying.
They're growing.
They got into the classic truck.
Yeah, that's what I just saw recently. Yeah.
They got a couple. They got Brothers. They got they bought the Western Kentucky classic trucks.
And honestly, in my opinion, I think if it wasn't for them to do that, I think our industry or for us, I think it may have been a lot of companies would have gone belly up because for whatever the reason was, they couldn't keep afloat, and then you've got somebody like Holly come in and say, hey, we're willing to take over your brand. Maybe they run away with cash, but the brand still continues. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah. That's a good point because they could have been going through hard times, or maybe they were just ready to sell, right? I don't know. Something. But either way, you're right. I mean,
Be glad the stuff is there still.
well, I mean, they need to buy. They need to buy like, man, like.
Cams? Do they have cams?
No, they don't buy no. They don't have no internals.
No internals.
No internals. Long time ago, they used to sell head packages. Years ago.
Oh, I remember that.
That got away.
I had a set of heads, man. That were
they
like.
used to sell head cam and lift.
Brodix built that head for them.
Yeah.
And when I saw it, I'm like, wow, this is a track one in a smaller, with smaller ports. But you could tell because the ports. I mean, there's so much more material.
Yeah.
And I'm like, damn.
The Holly needs to buy Mickey Thompson so I can get a deal.
That's I didn't ask you on the tires because they don't have it.
They sell. They've been buying a lot of rim companies, Rocket Wheels, and them.
Oh, Rocket Wheels! Wow.
Yeah, Rocket Wheels.
I bought some lugs once off of eBay, and the guy that was selling them was Rocket Wheels. Well, no, I called and it was Rocket Wheels.
Oh yeah.
And so I'm like, "This is Rocket Wheels?" They're like, "Yeah."
Hellbrand. I mean, they got Hellbrand now. I mean, some of the vintage like the. They got them now, but
wow.
They need to go buy like Mickey Thompson's or Anyway, they probably these companies probably don't want to hear
McCreary.
They probably don't want to hear us. Yeah, but buy some company that got some performance
M&H.
stuff, man. M&H, man, something. But anyway, so there's so many different there's so many different things that came about in the past decade, because everything's evolving. But
I would say in the last 5 years, man, the stuff that is available for somebody to run EFI and say, well, I don't want to go get an LS because that's I've got all this stuff. I've got the heads. I know it makes more power. Yeah. But they're just not EFI.
Yeah, that's what. How do you buy a turbo company? That's what.
Something. Just buy some turbo.
Well, actually, they do have one. They do have STS, which STS turbos is basically they I don't know their specialty, but they make a kit that are remote style for Corvettes, and they're mounted in the rear.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Those are those STS remote style. Yeah. So I forgot they do make a turbo couple. They're like a cast iron, like a ball bearing style turbo, which is anyway, that's that thing.
Yeah.
So but anyway, but on top of that, just kind of going back to what we're talking about, like somebody who wants to do an EFI system,
mm-hmm.
I mean, it's really not difficult. I mean, it's really not, especially if you get a throttle body style,
mm-hmm.
Throttle body EFI system, whether it be a Sniper or a Terminator, man, they're 5 wires. I mean, really, it's and make sure you just have a upgraded fuel system and ignition, but. Other than that, that's it. I mean, it's really straightforward and easy. But
so these are the questions that I thought I'd ask Buck here, because we hadn't really touched up on some of the stuff here. I know he deals with it on a daily basis, and then you got the guys who come in here and they tune on a daily basis. Some of these guys. They're close to their tuner, or they do their own tuning.
Right.
It's just the conversations that we haven't brought in, and we didn't want to just be talking about old school. So we got a variety of topics, and this is one of the cool ones. Maybe next time we'll touch LS, maybe transmissions or rear ends or
whatever,
something.
man. We can, transmissions are a good thing. There's a lot of good transmission guys around here.
Yeah.
Ever since I've had my car, I've known a guy for 30 years,
mm-hmm.
and he's done all my transmission. All my transmissions. A lot of people may know him, and maybe I'll mention it one at a time when I bring him on. But he was local. He's now up in Dallas now. But like I said, he did all my transmissions.
Yeah.
And always, man, I can take my transmission at lunch.
Yeah.
Me on lunch, and he'll knock it out.
Nice.
And then, won't even, I ask, how much? Don't worry about it. So anyway, But yeah, we can get in transmission. We can get in LS.
Yeah.
I mean, because LS is the thing of the future, right? That's something that seems
a lot
to be
of guys are actually kind of leaving the 411 PCM and going into
so before we decide to exit, right? It wasn't. This was not a planned episode. So it was just something that we just kind of,
We're gonna talk about something, man, no matter what. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about.
So we talked about PRI.
So let me ask you something. Everybody who's into the car world, not deep into the performance racing, but if you're into cars, you know what SEMA is. Right. PRI, I don't know what year it came around, but performance racing industry.
Right.
SEMA is something completely different.
Yeah,
on the same basis.
You on one of the first episodes we talked about
We
that
did,
SEMA,
and that's why I come
you
back
had
up.
that whole organ because they were getting
Yeah.
into that act of
They try to save the industry. I read into a lot of that stuff. So they've
Right.
got lawyers, they've got people in Washington D.C.
The lobbying.
And making sure that they don't pass some kind of
Yeah.
law that's going to screw us up, and next we won't be able to modify our street car.
Right.
And I'm not talking about a new car. I'm talking about an old classic. They'll just pass a law because they don't know what the hell. They just think, oh, it's pollution. We don't need that junk on the street, and there goes your Camaro. Now you're going to get stuck with building your chassis. You're going to have to get a glass car body. I mean, that'll kill everybody because not many people know how to build stuff. So that's what they protect. But PRI is a different animal.
Yeah, that's
I don't know too much. I haven't gone too much. It's new to me, but you know about it because Holly is kind of. I mean, they got a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah, of course they got. It's just basically a show where all the people in the industry displays their new stuff for the year.
Race car.
I mean,
I see race car.
Well, race cars, they new turbo or something. I mean, it's just basically where again, like companies can come through.
Yeah.
Hey, this is gonna be our product that we're coming out new in 2023, right? So that's basically what the PRI is, and then of course, it seems like it's more of a glam show to me. But
yeah, well, it's all internal, man. Like you can't just walk up to it. It's got to be. It's
when I say a glam show, meaning again, I'm they have all the street outlaw guys just glamming it,
Well, they invite these dudes, right? Hey, come sit at my booth.
That's what it is.
Yeah. Do they pay them to bring their car?
Right. They're not going there for free.
Pay us, guys. We'll go out there and talk all kinds of shit.
Yeah, that's all it is. To come to my booth between 2 and 3, sign autographs. Like,
man.
Anyway, so everybody's got their opinion.
It is what it is, man. Our show is our show. We we spin off whatever the hell we want.
Yeah.
We love cars. We talk cars. We like racing, street,
right, man.
track.
That's what it's about, right? And again, it all evolves around the 512, and to kind of go down another little not a rabbit hole. But
what do you got?
So there was anyway. There's some interesting things that we might have lined up because there was some stories out there in land that were like guys came around here to run, blah 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 blah, from the city. So that's.
So Ray's up north, right? He's like the north central guy. I'm the south, and it's further away from a track. And we didn't go. Well, if we went to San Antonio, it was more like oh man, we're gonna race the San Antonio guy. So that's not a track for us. Right. So what do we do? Well, we street race, right? And it's only because that's the way. That's the nature of this area. But within all of that.
Right.
If you guys don't know, or if you guys do know, because some of you guys listen to it, I've seen some of you guys bring up topics on Racebook.
Yep. Racebook. Yep.
I do know that there was faster cars running back then, kind of like the fast cars today, and on the event that's going to happen December 17th. Or by the time this airs after. You've got the slow car class, and by all means, that slow car class is not slow because you're talking about, what is it, 6570?
650.
That's respectable. Back then, there were cars, the real fast cars. They had, engine builders that are, known to run in pro stock, and these engines were existing in these cars. They were running. They were there. And if they didn't have something like that, well, they had something very homebrew, close built to be as fast as that. And you just didn't hear about it too much because they were very underground.
Right.
And if you saw them at the track, you saw them at the track. But if they did anything else, you won't know about it. Maybe today you will because I'll interview a few guys. But I got a little earful of how it went. And man, these are great stories that you would like to know because some of these guys were either they were in the low nines, and when they went to the street, the track wasn't prepped, so they had to consider now
like high nines, right?
And the technology wasn't there, but they knew that if you're trying to plant back then, the only way to plant and go fast is tub. Get the biggest tire you got. It was the big thing, but I'm not talking about a pro street tire. I'm talking about get a slick, a Goodyear that says Eagle on it, and wrinkle that damn thing, and hopefully you can get down the street.
Right.
Some of these guys were trying to do it on a 10.5, and if they could hit a high 9 on motor, all good for them. But it's a different world in their field because they were. I think some of them were running for money because
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, I don't think anybody would have ran for just
not for free, not that type of car.
I don't think so. Yeah.
So anyway, I hope we can bring some.
Yeah, like I said, that's gonna be in tap, if you will. So, but yeah, I just want to give everybody a heads up on that, right? Because that's something
cool
that's working up, right? But
and
anyway,
if we're talking about you, and if it rings a bell, send me a message or send Buck a message. Say, hey man, I remember I was there. Man, we'd like to bring you on. Don't feel like I'll never go on there because nobody wants to listen to. Man, if you're from the area, Central, from Temple to the outskirts of San Antonio,
right?
Man, let us know. We'd love to hear it.
Yeah, hell yeah! Like I said, that's the reason for the show. Like I said, just to get some stories out there, and some people may or may not have known, right? Just a matter of getting everything associated. But well. Anyway, yeah. So that
bored everybody.
No, like I said, I mean, we just want to do a quick recap, if you will. It's going to be like if you call it a weekend show, right? We might do
the weekend show. Maybe we'll air it on top of Monday or something.
Yeah. So okay, man. Well, we're going to wrap it up. Like I said, appreciate coming out, Paul. Like I said, we did a real quick episode. But until next time, we'll catch you next time. Peace out.
Good one. Bye.